Ben Turner was the kind of guy who could make a whole room of people yawn simply by mentioning his job title, Junior Data Analyst. Just hearing it made him feel like he should wear a gray jumpsuit and sit in a cubicle with beige walls, counting paper clips and stapling reports. But today was different. Today was supposed to be just like any other Tuesday, which made it the perfect candidate for something absurd to happen. As he shuffled into the break room, armed with his oversized travel mug labeled "World's Okayest Employee," he could already smell the dreadful aroma of burnt coffee wafting through the air. He poured himself a cup, its color resembling that of a swamp, and leaned against the counter. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead like they were trying to communicate with him. "Ben, you're a lost cause." In a fit of boredom, he decided to share a half-hearted joke with the only other soul in the break room, Carla, who was expertly typing something far more exciting than whatever spreadsheet he was supposed to be working on. "Hey, Carla," he said, stifling a yawn. "Why do we call it morning coffee when we drink it all day? Shouldn't it be lifetime coffee?" Carla glanced up, her expression flat as a pancake. "It's called office coffee because it tastes like it came from the bottom of a shoe." He chuckled, pretending her sarcasm was the highlight of his day. But as he took a sip of his dubious brew, the unthinkable happened. His elbow bumped into a strange, metallic device on the table. It was old and dusty, with buttons that looked like they hadn't been pressed in a millennium. He'd bought it at a yard sale just last weekend, convinced it might be a relic of some forgotten technology. "Hey, what's this?" he muttered, poking at the buttons with the grace of a toddler discovering spaghetti for the first time. Suddenly, the device buzzed to life, lighting up with a vibrant blue glow. A holographic display burst forth, and just like that, the break room melted away. Ben felt his stomach drop, a sensation akin to a roller coaster ride gone wrong. "Whoa!" he shouted, but before he could process what was happening, the world around him shimmered like a bad special effect from an old sci-fi movie. And then, he found himself on stage, under bright lights, in front of a raucous audience of cats. Yes, cats. Feline faces stared back at him, some wearing tiny bow ties, others with monocles perched on their noses. "Welcome to the Feline Comedy Festival," a voice boomed from nowhere, and Ben blinked in disbelief. "Give it up for your headliner, Captain Meow Velas." A spotlight hit him, and for a brief moment, he was utterly frozen. "Wait, what?" he whispered. The cats began to purr and meow in excitement, as if his confusion was part of the act. Okay, he said, lifting his hands in surrender. "So, what do you call a cat who loves to bowl?" He paused dramatically, and the cats leaned in, their eyes wide. "An alley cat." The crowd erupted in what could only be described as feline laughter, lots of loud purring, some enthusiastic tail flicking, and a few cats even rolled on their backs, thoroughly amused. Just as he started to think he could really make a career out of cat comedy, the shimmering began again. The stage, the cats, and even the punchline evaporated into thin air. Ben landed with a thud in a completely different place. This time, he was in a bustling city, but everything was slightly off. The skyline looked like a jigsaw puzzle, the buildings too tall and too colorful, almost cartoonish. He glanced down and gasped. He was wearing a spandex suit emblazoned with a giant M on the chest. "What the?" he exclaimed, only to be cut off by a loud voice booming through the city's speakers. "Captain Mundane, we need you." Ben turned around to see a group of citizens, normal-looking people in khakis and polo shirts, pointing at him. A woman rushed up, her expression frantic. "There's a crisis at the grocery store." The milk is expired, and we need your spreadsheet powers to predict the next delivery. Spreadsheet powers, he mumbled, trying to comprehend the absurdity. Yes. Your ability to create forecast models could save us all, she replied, urgency etched on her face. At that moment, Ben realized he had become a superhero known for his ability to save the day with, of all things, data analysis. Right, because nothing says superhero like effectively managing inventory, he quipped, but no one was laughing. With a sigh, he flew off, awkwardly, because he wasn't sure how to control his newfound ability, soaring over the city. The next thing he knew, he was standing in front of the grocery store, watching a chaotic scene unfold. People were gathering in confusion, and there was a line of very grumpy customers. All right, folks, he shouted, raising his hands to silence the crowd. Fear not. Captain Mundane is here to save the day. A smattering of applause erupted, and he felt a swell of confidence. I'll calculate when the next delivery of fresh milk is due. Let's not panic. As he started tapping into the powers of the spreadsheet, whatever that meant, he suddenly felt the world shift again. The colors swirled and the sounds became a distant echo. Ben tumbled through the cosmos, landing in a quaint little cafe filled with vintage decor and a rich aroma of espresso. The sign above read, "Time-traveling barista." He looked down at himself and, to his surprise, was wearing an apron adorned with coffee beans. "Welcome," a cheerful voice greeted him. It was a woman with bright red hair and a dazzling smile. "I'm Bella, your time-traveling barista. What can I get you today? A latte from 2020 or a cappuccino from the Renaissance?" I'll take, what?" Ben stuttered. This was all getting out of hand. "Here's the deal," she said, winking. "You make the coffee, and it can change history. Trust me, it's all in the froth." He stared at the espresso machine, which was clearly more than just a coffee maker. "Okay, let's see what we can do," he muttered, adjusting his apron. As he worked, he couldn't help but make ridiculous orders for famous historical figures. He crafted a mocha for Shakespeare, suggesting he might have enjoyed writing a comedy about cats instead of tragedies. Ben couldn't stop himself from laughing as he envisioned the bard penning Romeo and Meowiet. But as the froth settled, a loud alarm began to blare, shaking the cafe and drawing his attention. The machine sputtered, lights flashed, and before he could even process what was happening, the world shimmered yet again. Ben braced himself as the world shimmered and swirled around him, the cafe fading into an abstract mix of colors and sounds. Just as quickly as it started, it stopped. He found himself standing in a stark, monochrome room, every surface draped in shades of gray. A solitary desk sat in the center, littered with empty coffee cups and crumpled papers. "What the?" he muttered, trying to make sense of his surroundings. His gaze fell on a version of himself sitting at the desk, eyes glazed over, staring into space. This Ben looked disheveled, his hair a mess, his clothes a wrinkled shadow of what he'd worn before. "Welcome to the void of nihilism," this Ben said flatly, barely lifting his head. "What's the point of anything, really?" Ben blinked, the absurdity of the situation hitting him like a ton of bricks. I think I'd prefer the world where the milk isn't expired, thanks." The other Ben scoffed. "You're in for a reality check, my friend. No matter what universe you jump to, you'll always end up here, questioning everything." "Yeah, but this is a bit much, isn't it?" Ben gestured around the dreary space. "Aren't you tired of just sitting here?" "Tired?" The other Ben's voice was devoid of emotion. "What's the point? It's all meaningless." Just an endless cycle of coffee and spreadsheets. Ben felt a jolt of defiance. No way. There's gotta be more to life than this. I mean, I just jumped from a universe where I was a cat comedian. That was ridiculous, but it was also hilarious. At that, the other Ben's brow furrowed slightly, as if the concept of humor was a foreign language. Funny? What's funny about anything? You're just delaying the inevitable. Ben's mind raced. But think about it. Life's a mess, and that's what makes it interesting. The chaos, the unpredictability, it's all part of the ride. Ride? The other Ben repeated, skepticism creeping into his tone. You think it's all just one big amusement park? It's more like a slow, agonizing crawl to nowhere. Okay, but what if I told you that even this moment can be meaningful? Even the mess can be beautiful. Ben pressed. The other Ben slowly sat up, a glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. Meaningful? How? Think about the times you've laughed. The moments that made you smile, no matter how small. Ben was surprised at the passion in his voice. Those moments matter. They make all the nonsense worth it. Laughter, the other Ben leaned back, contemplating. What if you're right? What if there is something worth laughing about? Exactly. And you can't find that if you just sit here moping. Ben grinned. Let's get out of this place together. The other Ben's demeanor shifted, a flicker of hope breaking through the monochrome gloom. How do we escape? Maybe it's about embracing the chaos instead of fighting it, Ben suggested. Let's create a little chaos ourselves. With that, Ben grabbed a coffee cup from the desk and hurled it at the wall. It shattered into a million pieces, the sound echoing like laughter in the void. To his surprise, color began to seep back into the world around them, washing away the gray and replacing it with vibrant hues. The other Ben blinked, shock and delight mingling in his expression. What just happened? Life! Ben shouted, his heart racing. Life happened. Suddenly, the room transformed. They were no longer in the void but on a bustling street filled with people, colors blaring vibrantly. It felt like a celebration, with music playing from every corner. Ben turned to his counterpart, who was now fully awake and beaming. Welcome back to reality, he said, excitement bubbling up within him. What is this place? The other Ben asked, taking in the sights and sounds. It's the universe where everyone has embraced their quirks, Ben explained, grinning. We can do anything here. They were swept into the crowd, and Ben felt a rush of energy, the kind that made him want to dance and laugh. They joined a parade, with floats decorated in extravagant colors and people dressed in outrageous costumes, celebrating the beauty of individuality. Look at them, the other Ben shouted over the music. They're just happy. Yes. This is what I'm talking about. Ben exclaimed. This is the joy of living. As they danced through the throng, Ben felt the tension release from his shoulders. They moved together, letting the rhythm of the celebration carry them away from the dark thoughts that had plagued them. Suddenly, an enormous float rolled by, and atop it stood a giant cat in a top hat, waving its paw. Meow Velas, it called, and the crowd cheered in delight. Maybe I should give cat comedy another shot, Ben chuckled, his heart lighter than it had been in ages. Let's make a grand entrance, the other Ben suggested. They jumped onto the float, and to their surprise, the crowd erupted in applause. The giant cat looked at them with amused eyes. What have we here? A duo of unexpected heroes? Ben grinned. More like a duo of unexpected comedians. With that, they began to perform improvised comedy right there on the float. Ben made a joke about a cat ordering a latte, and the other Ben riffed on the absurdity of being a superhero with spreadsheet powers. The crowd roared with laughter, and for the first time, he felt truly alive. Every punchline hit, every quip resonated, and the energy was infectious. As the float rolled on, Ben glanced at the other Ben, who was laughing freely. This is what I meant. This is why chaos matters. Just then, a shimmer enveloped them again, and they found themselves back in the void, but this time, it was different. The shades of gray were mixed with vibrant colors swirling around them, remnants of the celebration they just experienced. You see? Ben said, triumph in his voice. Even here, we can create meaning. But the other Ben looked contemplative. Isn't there a way to stop this? To find a way to control the jumps? Maybe the answer isn't to control it, Ben replied, but to embrace it. We've got to learn to navigate the chaos. He took a deep breath, and the colors started to brighten again. Let's jump together. We can take this chaos wherever we go. As they joined hands, the world shimmered once more. They were launched into another universe, where they landed with a soft thud in a sunny park, birds chirping happily around them. Ben looked around in disbelief. Wow, this place is beautiful. It was a vibrant city park, filled with trees, laughter, and the sounds of children playing. In the distance, he spotted a group of people gathering for an outdoor event. Is that a talent show? The other Ben asked, pointing. Looks like it. Ben exclaimed, his heart racing at the thought. We should totally participate. But what do we even have to offer? The other Ben questioned. Everything. Ben replied, excitement bubbling up. We've got stories, laughter, and the chaos we've embraced. Let's make people smile. They approached the stage, and Ben could feel the energy of the crowd. It was a mix of anticipation and joy, and he knew they had to be a part of it. As they stepped onto the stage, Ben took a deep breath. Hi, everyone. We're here to share some chaos and a few laughs. The crowd cheered, their faces alight with curiosity. What's a cat's favorite instrument? Ben asked, a smile spreading across his face. A percussion, the other Ben shouted, adding his own flair to the performance. The audience erupted in laughter, and Ben felt a surge of exhilaration. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for. They continued to riff off each other, sharing jokes and anecdotes, their chemistry undeniable. The crowd was fully engaged, laughter ringing through the park, uniting everyone in joy. With every joke, they transformed the stage into a whirlwind of laughter and camaraderie, each punchline landing like a drumbeat of happiness. They didn't just entertain, they connected, bridging the gaps between people with the simple act of laughter. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Ben felt a sense of peace wash over him. We did it, he said, beaming at the other Ben. We embraced the chaos, and look what happened. The other Ben nodded, a look of wonder on his face. Maybe life is about finding those moments, no matter how chaotic they seem. Exactly. Ben replied, laughter still bubbling up. And you know what? I think I'm finally okay with the unpredictability of it all. Just then, a shimmer of light appeared, and Ben felt the familiar tug of the multiverse pulling at him. No, not again, he exclaimed, but this time, he was ready. He and the other Ben held hands tightly, ready to face whatever universe awaited them next. As they were enveloped in light, Ben couldn't help but smile. Whatever chaos came next, he was prepared to embrace it fully. They landed again, but this time, it felt different. They found themselves back in the break room, the familiar sight of burnt coffee and bland walls greeting them. "Wait, what?" he said, looking around. The device lay on the table, still buzzing softly. "Are we back?" "Looks like it," the other Ben replied, his expression thoughtful. Ben took a deep breath, his heart racing. Maybe it's not about jumping between universes anymore. Maybe it's about finding meaning right here. He reached for the device, ready to turn it off, when a thought struck him. What if we use this to create something new? The other Ben raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Let's invite everyone to join us. Let's turn this mundane existence into something extraordinary." Ben felt a surge of determination. They could harness the absurdity of life, bringing everyone together for laughter and connection. "Okay, but how?" the other Ben asked, excitement mingling with uncertainty. "Simple," Ben replied, a smile spreading across his face. "We start by sharing our adventures. We create a podcast or a video series. We tell our stories and encourage others to share theirs." The other Ben nodded, his eyes lighting up. "I love it. We can show everyone that the chaos of life is what makes it beautiful." With that, they set to work. They gathered supplies, brainstorming ideas, laughing as they recounted their wild adventures through the multiverse. As they worked together, Ben felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced before. He realized that life wasn't about escaping or running away from the chaos. It was about embracing it, finding joy in the unpredictable, and sharing those moments with others. When they finally launched their podcast, it took off like wildfire. People resonated with their stories, finding laughter and connection in the chaos of life. Each episode was filled with humor, warmth, and the vibrant energy of their adventures. Ben and the other Ben became a duo that inspired many to embrace their own chaos, reminding them that laughter could always be found, no matter how absurd life became. And as they continued their journey together, Ben knew he'd found something truly special, a friendship born from the madness, a partnership that transformed the mundane into the extraordinary. He looked at the other Ben, a grin spreading across his face. "Here's to the chaos." "To the chaos," the other Ben echoed, and they both burst into laughter, ready to take on whatever the universe had in store for them next.